Hello, everyone. It's nice to see everybody here in one room. I mean, I don't know most of you, but it's nice to see you. I want to first thank Tim Bowling for, as she mentioned, his generosity in looking over my poems and in giving me feedback, not only to me, but as she said, a handful of other poets. The more eyes that you can get on anything, as you know, is just, it's much better. So thank you. I'm indebted to you. Thanks to Versefest and ARC for having me here. I know I appreciate it. My parents appreciate it. It gives them something to boast about every once in a while, which is nice. I'm going to read from a section in the manuscript called The World's Smallest Stadium. And this first poem, I wrote it when I was reading Roberto Bolaño's The Savage Detectives, which I don't know how many of you have read it, but it really struck me, and I think what struck me was the idea of the possibility of like a Bildungsraum, and within these insular art schools, or these like insular communities, and something struck me as really sweet and naive about it. So this one's called Art. Poverty was an inflection that we all drawled and sunk. We let our eyes fall like wrists when we guffawed. We stank. The miniature livelihoods of the bourgeois were for a time our bread and butter, but the rascal lower classes, ourselves included, went and met the middle class in the middle. These were lean days, friends. Art recurred upon its initial airs, and the Catholic iconography settled like silt over the grassroots movements. Universities filled with spit. Knowledge and vulgarity seemed to form two smooth balls. They reeked of winged things hitherto furthermore, if you can catch my drift. In the galleries, as in the madhouses they fathered, pills were apportioned by the white-coated men. Someone was fucking Derrida with their mind, and someone couldn't get enough of the artichokes, and the art, which looked poorer than a loaf of bread. I built an art house out of post-structuralism. You can guess what happened of the likely place. Falling was, for years, the central motif in our art, but we hit the ground last year when the markets crashed. Someone was painting nudes with their speech. Someone died and we mixed her ashes with oil paint and made a circle. We all got sick from it. The new fascists disbanded, power struggles we heard, and the incidentalists burst into flames. A movement started on the James Bay Pier. The artists just held a canvas up to the breakwater and waited for art to crash in. Too many unnecessary deaths. The solipsists made self-portraits out of their bodies, and the realists bought them up at auctions. As for the critics, they can wave their wands at us and wear their itty sunglasses and that's fine. But we're trying for something transcendental here. Every generation on the giants' shoulders feels compelled to bite the back of their heads a little bit. Not us. We believe in an invisible pulley now that ropes us over the ocean. This next poem's called Food. I was reading, at the time, Modernist Cuisine, which is like this tome of molecular gastronomy, and it was so ridiculous. Just how we could take something so basic and make it just this lofty idea. So this is called Food. The amuse-bouche was water chestnuts and duck air. The sous chefs came out of the closet for us, and their courage was as palatable as a raspberry. An aniseed was broken open in the other room, and our wine underwent a small change, that being its 42nd birthday and all. We applauded the wine for this, and much to our surprise, our hands clapped up a microdust that smelt of frozen celery and germs. A decoy course was presented to us, throwing us for a loop. It was served in a collapsible polyethylene house, and diverted our attention just long enough for the ether to kick in. After a few hours laughing and sharing secrets, the appetizer arrived. It was dandelion greens with a bear-tooth enamel vinaigrette, fried giblets and giblet foam, and 2 roasted hazelnuts. The horniness of the dishwashing staff was beginning to move into the dining area, so the host wheeled a pale eunuch through the dining room to equalize the situation. The post-appetizer was a sound course, canary whistles and horse hooves clacking on a paved road. It was meant to evoke jam and peanut butter, but my partner and I agreed it wasn't sweet enough. For the main course, we were given each a Swahili name and taught a kind of rural Nyanzan dialect, the better to enjoy the goat meat, which was prepared simply in a car fire. Dessert was an edible concept, a kind of white chocolate mathematic that was more befuddling the more you understood it. It was served with an Ouroboros-shaped tweel wafer, which repeatedly consumed and created itself. On the cab ride home, we passed a theater playing old movies, and my partner remarked, "It's a shame that we weren't given popcorn." And indeed, it was a shame. It was a shame that the restaurant was real and not some old movie. This next one is called Leisure. With no one to properly apply the tourniquet, he afforded himself the rare opportunity to just bleed everywhere. On the bed skirt, the garlic bowl, the painting of a smudge that could be a farmer, the everywhere. Blood became as a necessary aesthetic embellishment, the stucco, for example. Then it began to appear functional, as grouting. Its copiousness sort of normalized it, so he sat in his chair and began to read amid it. Soon after, his wife came home, aghast, of course, but he assured her that the blood had probably always been there, that she should fix herself a drink or a tomato sandwich and unwind a little bit. Being in no mood to argue with him, she obliged. It was glamorous, and it empowered her. So the two sat on the sofa and shared little stories about their childhood vacations, the soft inaccuracies, each with its own twiggy architecture, until the man could no longer keep his eyes open. He died, of course. In the morning, life clicked back into its old position, and the woman spent the day crying on the phone with her sister, then the police, then the cleaners. And I probably have time for just one more, and it's called Music. I dreamed I heard a loose scree in Sherpa flute's foreboding potpourri, a thrush in the throes of a stroke, hearing the wind rush its open beak, which sung a last gasp aria of fluids. The audience rose, clapping the evening's pamphlet to their other hand, misunderstanding music. The lights raised, a stadium of Wagner's brass, intolerant gaze upon me. A tree fell in the forest, proving music to be conditional. Perhaps it was the event, and I was unbeheld. A tree dreamed I was strumming and vibrating out of the pell-mell. Claps retracted, and each hand's back was then its front. Wagner's gaze clipped a measure before it resolved, and everything, every creature involved in the dolorous fugue worked backwards towards the source of the sound. When I came to, I delighted in the midnight display. The refrigerator's rumble and pssts of spray paint cans, making symbols I wouldn't know until I walked outside that morning and saw what they had to show me. Thank you.